Hello, everyone. Welcome to. I can't do that. I'm not that coordinated. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 21 of At Percussion. I'm your host, Casey Cangelesi, and with me today are Megan Arns,
Hello.
Laurel Black,
Hi.
and Ben Charles.
Hi, everybody.
So, yeah, it's Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. And with us today are two members of the Excelsis Percussion Quartet. They're a New York-based group. And the two we have with us today are Marcelina Sohochka and Mariana Ramirez. Hey, how are you all doing?
Hi. Thanks for having us. Thank you. We're good. How are you?
Hey, just fine. And Excelsis has been called a celebration of music making at the highest level by Jonathan Haas, and they're all over the place in New York doing great work. And where are you all talking to us from today? It looks like you're in the middle of a gig.
You're right. Well, to be honest, this is my apartment.
Oh, okay. It looks like I see the hanging.
My very luxurious, glamorous apartment here in New York City.
We're in the dressing room, actually.
So tell us a little bit about the group, and also tell us. I would like to know how you chose the name Excelsis.
Well, I was looking for a name, and we were like brainstorming, and actually Andrew, he mentioned like, wow, why you guys don't use the name Chick with Sticks, and like there were a lot of suggestions.
Like funny suggestions.
Yeah, of course.
Very
It was
serious.
just so. But then Lisa Becker, we worked with her the very first concert, and she mentioned something about the poem Excelsior, which talks about music, and then I was like, well, Excelsior is a great name, but I'm not pretty sure yet. And then I keep just like looking into the Latin language and all that, and then I found out that Excelsis means in the highest, like in the Bible and all that stuff, they say in Excelsis Dei, in the highest of the highest, or something like that. Mm-hmm. So then I was like, wow, that's great. It sounds great. It has I like the meaning. And then I guess we can pronounce all of us that, because we all of us speak different languages. And yeah, so I told them, and they liked it. And then we kept that name, Excelsis.
So speaking of you all speaking different languages, how did four of you from, as you said in y'all's bio, four corners of the earth end up in a percussion quartet together?
Well, it just kind of happened. Like when I thought about making the ensemble, I thought of them because I knew them from before, and I mean, they're great percussionists. So it just happened to be like that. Like Marcelina is from Poland, Aya is from Japan, I'm from Mexico, Clara is from Los Angeles, but her mom is from Canada, and she has the French part very, very strong. So I don't know. It just happened to be like that, and then it was fun when we started rehearsing. We realized that everyone understood different things sometimes, but it was fun actually, and it was very interesting to learn about other cultures and other languages, and it just happened like very organic, like very, very organic, and then I realized that it was very like something that we can have kind of unique as an ensemble, and yeah, so. But all of us are in New York City, so.
Wow, did all of you meet at Manhattan School of Music, or did you all go there at different times?
Me and Clara attended the Manhattan School of Music. I mean, I'm still there. So Clara and I knew each other from school. And Mariana, I met just through acquaintance and stuff like that. I knew her husband Andy. And Aya I didn't meet until I joined the group. So Aya was kind of the newest member for me. But I mean, yeah, New York's small. We all kind of knew about each other, and
yeah,
I was like really eager to work with the girls?
I met Aya at Rutgers because I went to Rutgers and I studied with her husband Mike Singer, and then that's how I knew Aya. And then yeah, like Marcelina said, then I met Marcelina and Clara at the end once Marcelina invited her to the ensemble.
What's it like doing this in New York City? Everyone talks about New York City as being like the place. If you're going to be an artist, you have to go to New York City, and everything happens in New York City, and all the real composers are from New York City. And I've actually even had people assume I live in New York City, even though I've only been there once ever, and it was for a friend's wedding. But literally, I've gotten emails that have said, so what's it like living in New York City? And I'm just like, what? Why do you? So anyway,
I don't know.
Anyway, can you talk a little bit about? Yeah, exactly. That's my answer. I have no freaking clue. But can you talk a little bit just about what it's like doing something with so many logistical considerations in such a bustling, busy place?
Well, there's a lot of elements to it. New York City is a place that's extremely expensive to live. So like renting things and transporting things, it's just like the cost is already higher. So you kind of have to like think, how to spend the least money, yeah, obviously. But what helped us out a lot is that because I'm still in school, I can still kind of use my connection with the Manhattan School of Music, and we've always rehearsed at the Manhattan School of Music because they're really supportive of the group, and I've already talked to like the percussion director about it and stuff like that. So we basically have access to a whole percussion department's collection of instruments, which for MSM is a lot. We do have a lot of instruments. We have a piece for 4 vibraphones, which we did have commissioned for us. We were able to rehearse on that. You can talk about the venues maybe and stuff like that.
Yeah, the tricky part is last year in December we made a concert and we had to like figure out everything. Like we were playing a piece for 4 vibraphones, then another piece with 4 timpani, 3 timpani,
5 different instruments.
It was a lot of year.
And it was because it was the first time we had to coordinate percussion equipment by ourselves, because before that we played NPR, NYU, where instruments were like no problem and they were supplied. And so this is our first solo show and our own pieces, that we worked on, and we had the responsibility of premiering them. And so we really wanted to do it justice. We wouldn't just like take anything. And so we were fortunate enough that one of our friends had 2 vibraphones to spare.
That helps a lot. Like friends, like then we'll repay the favor.
Yeah.
And so we had to rent some of the instruments too, but we had like we know it like in New York, all percussion. Well, not percussionists, but we know like
and
many
everybody's
people
willing to help each other. I'm not saying it's always going to be like just here's 6 5 octaves for free, but people are like really willing to share instruments, because that in the future
Of course, if they ask us, we will share our own instruments. Like we own, of course, instruments, marimbas, xylophones, drum sets, and all that, which we use sometimes for that concert, for example. But the rest of the instruments, friends, like please help us, and of course renting some stuff, but it was nothing like that much, that expensive, and. Yeah, so I don't know. We figure it out. Like we move, we talk with the persons each of us know, and each of us bring their own instruments, and it so far has worked out. So.
And Marcelina, you won a grant recently to buy instruments, right?
Yes, that wasn't.
Maybe that wasn't recently. I just saw it on the interview on your website.
No, back in high school, I feel like that was a while ago. But in high school, I won this grant called Jack Kent Cook Young Artist Award. I won it through kind of auditioning for the NPR program From the Top, which I've been on many times. And I think the second time I auditioned to be on the show was finally I was by myself. The first time I was with Percussion Scholarship Group. The second time I was by myself. And I also applied, like they offer you to also apply for the Jack Kent Foundation Young Artist Award. And I said, why not? And I got it, and it was really, really exciting as a percussionist to have that kind of money to spend on that stuff because, you know, my parents could never, like, buy me all the stuff that I had. It's, like, crazy.
Yeah.
And it's nice because, like, I still use this stuff every day today, and I can't imagine, you know, going to school without all that stuff because I really do use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super cool that that kind of thing out there exists for kids.
Yeah. So did you grow up in Chicago then, if you were in percussion scholarship group?
Yes, I did.
Cool.
I emigrated to the United States when I was 8, and then I
Okay.
got to the program when I was 9.
Okay. Cool.
Speaking of the interview Megan's referring to, Marcelina, is From the Top is the organization? Is that right?
Yeah.
And I guess they do children's outreach. Is that in New York City, or is that a nationwide thing?
Well, From the Top is based, like, the headquarters are in Boston, actually across the street from NEC. And, you know, their program, they have shows all over the country, and I think at every single show they have this outreach kind of seminar for the kids that are invited to play. And so as a part of the program, of course, you get to play and, you know, get to show off your talents, but at the end, it's super cool that they have a seminar to teach, you know, outreach and stuff like that, and they'll tell you, you know, the importance of it and all that stuff. I mean, I remember, you know, you do it every time you're on the show. So I feel like I've gotten so much just from doing it almost like multiple times, because, like, you know, when you're like really young, you kind of like don't really get the grasp of it. But now that, like, I know I teach myself and stuff like that, it really took root in my mind what that means. And yeah, the program's doing such great things out there. Great.
I really like how in the interview you expressed, because they asked a question that I assume you guys as an all-female quartet are probably pretty tired of answering by now, which is what's it like being in an all-female quartet? The interview, like, I don't really think about it. Like, it never even really occurred to me that this is unusual or whatever. And I couldn't agree more. Percussion has kind of, since I've been growing up, it was sort of a female-led genre, because first CDs I ever had were Evelyn Glennie and Koshka. I had Koshka's Marimba Spiritual CD since I was a little kid, and it's like that was the go-to solo CD I listened to. That and Evelyn's Rhythm Song and Evelyn's Greatest Hits, and I had a Steve Reich City Life CD when I was really young. But again, I was thinking of him as a composer and not as a percussionist. So yeah, and then Keiko, and yeah, it just seemed very, very female heavy. Ben, you're sitting there looking menacing and weird, and I'm starting to think people think you just kind of dropped in and you don't really belong here. So why don't you?
I have no idea what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, who's this guy? Yeah, Uncle Creepo over there in the corner.
Where'd you get that, Ben?
I have sources.
Ben is resourceful. Hey, I'm pretty resourceful with this. So Ben, why don't you go ahead and give us your segment? I'll just keep doing this.
Now Casey can talk while he does the jingle bells.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I kind of had trouble with, like, thinking about my segment for today because, like Casey was just talking about, like, I like to think that we're past the idea of thinking about, like, oh, female percussionists are somehow different from male percussionists or something like that, because we're all, musicians. I don't really think it's all that different. But at the same rate, it historically was, until somewhat recently, a more underrepresented group. And so when I started thinking of female percussionists, of course, the Evelyn Glennie, Koshka, Keiko Abe all came to mind. But actually, there's one person that I think was probably the earliest groundbreaking female percussionist, and that is Vida Chenoweth, who's a famous American marimba player. She's still alive today, so I wanted to kind of give a little bit of background about Vida Chenoweth. There's a great interview with Vida Chenoweth done by Lee Howard Stevens in Percussive Notes, Volume 15, Number 3, from 1977, if anyone's curious to read. That's where I got a lot of this information from. But anyway, I thought that kind of Nancy Zeltzman summed up Chenoweth the best. Nancy Zeltzman said once, Chenoweth's artistry, musicianship, and care with her repertoire resulted in her transcendence of public skepticism about the marimba as a serious medium for expression. And Vida Chenoweth is generally credited as being the first person to play polyphonic music on marimba, so like Bach, two-part inventions or that sort of thing.
Mhm.
So anyway, I also liked Chenoweth described her earliest, or one of her earliest experiences with looking up the word marimba in the dictionary, and the dictionary definition of the marimba was a few rough slabs thrown over an open pit and beat upon by savages. So
Oh my
she's
gosh.
kind of been someone that has obviously elevated the marimba from that dictionary definition. So anyway, she was born in 1929 in Enid, Oklahoma, and she came from a musical family, so she talked about at some point in their house they basically had every instrument except for harp. She studied privately when she was about 12 years old with a man named Sidney David, who was just a local music teacher at a music store. And then when she was in high school, she actually studied with Claire Omar Musser. And then she also played in one of his marimba orchestras in 1948. After graduating, she went to William Woods College in Missouri for 2 years before she transferred to Northwestern University and formally studied with Musser as a college student. In 1951, she earned a dual degree in marimba performance and music criticism. After that, she did a master's degree at American Conservatory in Chicago, where she studied with James Dutton and earned a dual master's degree in percussion and music theory. So after that, kind of her professional career fired off. She said her first major performance was at Fullerton Hall and the Chicago Art Institute, and she played works by Fissinger, Matthias, Musser, and Creston. That was in 1956. Also in 1956, she premiered the Robert Kirka Concerto for Marimba and Orchestra. Are you guys familiar with the Kirka Concerto?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the first works to be written for a low A marimba. So the theme for the Kirka Concerto is A, C, B. It's kind of funny. So anyway, then the next year in 1957, Jorge Sarmientos wrote his marimba concerto, and Chenoweth was holding a composition contest for the marimba, and Sarmientos's concerto was the winner of this contest. It was informally premiered in 1960 with Sarmientos actually playing timpani with Chenoweth on the marimba, and then the formal premiere was later that year, September 16th, 1960 in Guatemala, with Jose Maria Gil conducting the National Symphony. And actually the manuscript for the Sarmientos concerto is in the PAS Museum in Indianapolis, which I thought was cool. Then tragically, in 1961, she almost lost all the fingers on her right hand in a gas oven explosion, which kind of made her reevaluate her career, and she turned to linguistics and ethnomusicology, as well as missionary work, kind of in the New Zealand area. She spent quite a few years, 13 years, working in New Guinea with the Wycliffe Bible translators. During this period, she authored 11 books, including Melodic Perception and Analysis, which is like a music theory textbook, and the Yusorufas and Their Music, which is the native people of New Guinea. Also, in the early 1970s, she had a famous marimba student by the name of Lee Howard Stevens. So Vida Chenoweth is actually, in my mind, the link between Musser and Stevens. She's who gave Stevens this Musser technique that he kind of tweaked, made his own, and wrote Method of Movement from. In 1974, she wrote a book called Marimbas of Guatemala, which is kind of an ethnomusicology perspective on the origins of the marimba, which is still available from Steve Weiss today. So I need to order a copy of that. It's pretty cheap. It's like $10. She's also archived 1,000 tapes of world music at the Library of Congress, or almost 1,000 tapes, sorry, at the world music at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. And in 1994, she was the second woman inducted into the PAS Hall of Fame after Keiko Abe. So that is Vida Chenoweth.
Wow, way to go, Ben. That's excellent. Hey, I have to
Look at that.
thank Bill Rice one more time for leaving me his awesome record collection here at the JMU Percussion Studio. So thanks so much, Bill. We got Vida Chenoweth going on. Hey, so speaking of PAS, I was judging the marimba solo competition one year, maybe 2014 or something, and we're all sitting up in the front, and this nice this woman comes and asks, "Hey, may I sit here?" And she's clearly a older person, and she has a young boy with her who I think was her grandson. And I had no idea who she was, and she said, "May I sit?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So she sat in the judges' row right next to me, and having just talked to her a little bit, she just introduced herself. She said, "Oh, hi, I'm Vida Chenoweth." Just introducing herself, not as somebody special or historical or anything, but just super friendly, super humble, and just very, very real. So that was really cool for me, because I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I have good manners. And I was just like, yes, I don't know who you are, but you're welcome to sit. Because then you never know who you're being nice or rude to. So anyway, it was really cool because I got to meet Vida at a PASIC.
Very cool.
One cool thing for me was reading about what Lee Stevens had to say about her as a teacher and what she had to say about Musser as a teacher. And it seems like she and Musser were both very thorough people, and they were, one of their kind of central tenets was there's no glory in moving quickly through practicing or learning music. They were both very much into the idea of stick with it until you get it right. Don't practice wrong things. Don't go on until you can play 100% accurate. Which also made me think of George Hamilton Green as a teacher, which we talked about. But yeah, that sort of sense of really good percussion pedagogy definitely has its roots in that tradition.
Yeah. Hey, Megan, do you have any Facebook questions over there for the ladies?
Yeah, sure. We had kind of, touched on your backgrounds, and we have a question from Scott Schumann that says, as a group with a wide diversity of backgrounds, were or are there any cultural barriers or any other difficulties that you have had to overcome when working together in terms of practicing, selecting repertoire, and or performing, etc.?
I would say, would you agree that there's nothing seriously?
No, I mean,
Yeah.
More than difficulties, it is funny sometimes.
Oh my God, I was gonna say that first, but mostly we just make fun of each other's accents. It's like one person with an accent correcting another person with an accent. So we're not getting anywhere, guys. Can we,
Yeah.
So I'll be on, so we'll be texting, okay, whatever, or we'll be calling, and she's like, I'm calling Mariana, okay, what happened, and then she's like, oh, it's yesterday.
Or
those sound like intense cultural barriers inhibiting.
I actually.
No, I mean.
I have a very.
Yeah. If anything, we really learn a lot.
Yeah.
I'll be asking. If anything, it'll encourage me or us to get to know each other, get to know each other's percussion communities better. And no, it's only been almost, if anything, a positive thing. I think.
Yeah.
Part of our group.
And thankfully, I think all of us are very open to we all of us come from a different background, so we understand. We used to live in another country and came to New York, and New York is a melting pot, and at the end we're doing music. We all of us are percussionists, musicians making music, and I don't know. We can talk about girly things that I don't know, and that's also fun, and that just helps to to get to know each other and get to know their culture. Sometimes we learn different words in different languages.
Mostly swear words. Mostly swear words.
And more than It's so much about barriers, I guess.
No, yeah.
That's funny.
I have a very personal experience with the accent thing. When I was studying at Miami with Svet Stoyanov, with Svet's accent, the word colored and collared sound the same. And so for our concerts, he would always tell us wear a collared shirt. And we could never figure out, do you mean a shirt with a collar or a blue shirt? And he would always get mad at us. He's like, a collared shirt? What's so hard about that?
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, if that happens, we just ask, did you mean, what do you mean, this or that? And then we laugh at each other, and that's it.
Yeah.
You just clarify, and pretty much we solve it.
Yeah. One more cultural question, I guess. Carlos Johnson wants to know, Mariana, how are female percussionists treated in Mexico, and how does it differ from your experience in the U.S.?
Wow. This question. Okay. Well, I'm from Mexico City, so I cannot talk about whole Mexico because there's also bigger cities. Well, not bigger cities, but other big cities. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely less female percussionists in, at least when I was studying there. Mm-hmm. Pretty much the studio was like, I don't know, 10 guys and 2 girls, and it's a little bit harder sometimes, depending certain things. But I guess at the end, thankfully, music makes you share many things. Like, because at the end we're making music, and it doesn't really matter who is, if you're a girl or a boy. So at the end you work together, and sometimes it's a little bit harder, but it kind of works out, like, because it's music. Mm-hmm. So, but here in the United States, I think it's way more open. Like, it's also like not so rare to like see females doing whatever they want, or percussion or any other thing that they want to do. In Mexico back then, it takes a little bit longer to get used to those things when you're not following that cultural pattern, but it's opening. It's still opening. I mean, one of the greatest percussionists I know is from there, and she's still there. She's like the timpanist of the Philharmonic there. She studied at MSM back in the day. Gabriela Jimenez. Mm-hmm. She studied with Chris Lamb too, and she's still there. And she has opened a lot of like, well, here we go, girls, like in percussion, and it just is still open. Like more and more.
It's like
girls,
developing.
Yeah. It's developing. That's what I mean with the language. Yeah.
Oh my God. I think you meant this.
That's great.
We make fun of each other most of the time. Most of the time.
You happen to know Evaristo Aguilar?
Sorry?
Do you happen to know Evaristo Aguilar?
Evaristo, yeah, of course. Evaristo, yes. I met him in, I think, 2011.
Cool. He had Laurel and I in Tampico, and I met him at a shared gig in Argentina, but he's just become a great, I don't know, sweet man, great friend.
Yeah.
Hey, Ted Jackson has a quick Facebook question. He just wants to know that aside from percussion, what else do you all like to do?
Well, you want to say? Well, there's no much time.
We promise we have a life. Yeah.
Well, I like to go and dance salsa. I love dancing salsa, actually. And like all that scene of, I mean, hearing concerts, not only salsa concerts, but going out to listen to some music. And I guess that would be my hobby, like once every 6 months or something like that. There's not that much time.
Yeah. I personally, I don't know, I love to travel a lot, and I mean, most of the times that comes from music, you know, but I really like traveling. I think my whole family is really about that, hence why we came to America and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm just like really into seeing new places, and I don't know, I'm also into like really into what is it called, visual art, like fine art and stuff like that. So that's one thing that interests me and really influences me, is finding similarities between, you know, impressionism and this piece that I'm playing. It's yeah, I just love going out to see lots of like art museums. Any city I go to, I have to see their art museum, or even like if it's a small one. I'm really into that.
My salsa thing, sorry.
I like to dance.
I'm glad Ted asked that, Casey. That's one of my favorite questions to ask people. So what else do you do? Because oftentimes, like, to be a successful musician, you don't do anything else.
Yeah. No, it's good to... Yeah, it seems like it's come up on the show just a couple of times already. Just like remember to also be a real person and to you know, try to do something else. So anywho, Megan, do you want to do your segment?
Sure. Well, I'm wondering if you guys know Mariana and Marcelina, if you have had any experience working with Valerie Naranjo.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Was that at NYU or in what capacity?
Me personally, she
Yeah.
did a bunch of like a whole series of master classes at Manhattan School of Music.
Okay.
So we worked a lot with her then.
Cool.
I haven't worked with her, but I know her. But yeah, I mean, from NYU and also from Andrew because they work together a lot. With
yeah, Mariana's
arrangements.
like breaking into Broadway actually, so.
Not yet, off Broadway. I'm close.
Yeah,
off Broadway. So, but yeah, I haven't had the pleasure to work with her, but I know her and sometimes we work together once in a while.
Right. Well, I wanted to tell one of her stories, and I think a lot of people know that she's a percussionist on Saturday Night Live, and she just celebrated her 20th anniversary when the show celebrated their 40th anniversary last year, and I think a lot of people know that she plays West African music as well. But something that I think might be lesser known, because I think she's a very humble person, and she doesn't say this all the time, but she is the reason that women are allowed to play Jil in Ghana, and I think that's so crazy.
Yeah.
And so I had the opportunity to interview her in April for the April issue of Rhythm Machine. She's on the cover, and I kind of asked her about how that came about, and she said that she grew up in Colorado, and when she was a freshman at University of Colorado, there was a Ghanaian PhD student there, and he was teaching some Ewe drumming classes, and she was really enthralled with that and asked him lots of questions and, wanted to hear him play whenever she could. And that eventually went away as she was in graduate school, and then after graduate school, years later, she found a record in the African Music Center in Central Harlem by Kakraba Lobi, who's a master Jil player from the Laura region, and she was fascinated with this album. She transcribed it on the chromatic marimba and learned all the tunes, and eventually found a pentatonic marimba, or I guess, I don't know if it was actually a Jil, but some kind of pentatonic instrument, and learned on there. And eventually she said, if I'm going to learn this, if I'm, want to learn more about this, I have to go to the source. So she decided to go to Ghana, and she wrote to Kakraba and set up, asked if she could come study with him. And he said yes, and he invited her to come study. But when she got there, this is before the age of email, when she got there, he had accepted a gig in Japan or a concert or something, so he wasn't in the country. And she said, oh no, now what do I do? And so she ended up studying with some other players, and eventually was able to study with Kakraba as well. And this is the first time that she went in 1988. And I just wanted to kind of read her words. The question was, but women weren't allowed to play Jil in public. Was your desire and ability to perform controversial? And this, again, is on her first trip. And she said, absolutely. When I first played for the Laura chief, Carbo, he was sitting with his council of 20 male elders. There was a huge uproar when I finished. Some council members were of the mind that times were changing and women should have the kind of role I was taking. Others were more traditional and said that this had never happened before and that it should never happen again. Dagara people in Laura are very polite, so there aren't too many people scorning me, but there was a lot of private controversy. So women have been playing Jil in public since then, so I think that I learned that there will always be controversy where changes are made, and that's okay. I think it's a mistake to try to avoid controversy and therefore not enact any change. Fortunately for me, I had no idea that women didn't play until I was in that meeting. So it taught me that people should do what they love and try to encourage others, and that alone can bring change. So I think that is super cool, and that's something that's really kind of changed the music scene probably in that city and in that country. So there's also two other, there are a lot of all-female drumming groups, and I just wanted to mention two of them that I came across or that I've become familiar with in the past couple of years, and you guys can check them out if you want to. But one's in the States, it's called Ayodele, which actually, maybe Marcelina, maybe you know of them. They're from Chicago, or they're in Chicago.
No.
Maybe not. I've never seen them live before, but I saw Muntu Drum and Dance, which is a co-ed group, and I think that some of the women in that group formed this group as well. And their mission is to foster community from a feminine perspective through the study and performance of diasporic African drum and dance. And it started in 2007. And it's really cool. There's a bunch of videos online of them. You can check out their website. And another one is in Guinea, and it's called Nimbaya, and it's a completely all-female drum and dance company in Guinea. And I remember when I was studying in Ghana, there wasn't a specifically all-female group that performed all the time, but that was a big thing that they wanted to do. They took all the female drummers in the village that we were studying in, and then all the females in our group, and we made this ensemble. And that was like a big thing. We were kind of like, okay, why are we doing this? We don't really know. We never really knew why we were doing it, but it was something that they requested to do. So I think that's interesting, and I think probably it's been a tradition less in Ghana or in Guinea, and so that's why it's special. It's it's newer than in the States. Like we were talking about. Okay, yeah, we don't think any different that we're female percussionists, or we're just percussionists, period. But maybe that hasn't been the case in other parts of the world. So
I like how in another portion of Marcelina's From the Top interview, she answers the question, how do you hit so hard and play so hard when you're just a girl? And she says, well, you answered it so well. You said that's like not how you play. Like it's not about strength to make sound, which we're telling them all the time. You don't. That's not how you play big. You shouldn't be muscling things. You should be moving well and moving efficiently. And I'm really small. And yeah, I can play huge,
Well, that also reminds me. I've talked about this before, but one of my favorite female music stories is when Strauss wrote his burlesque for piano. It was considered so difficult that it would never be able to be played. And then a man played it, and they said, well, a woman could never play this. Like a man can play this, but a woman could never do it. And now it's like a staple in Martha Argerich's repertoire, and it's just like. She just nails the piece every single time. Like it's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, she's like absurdly. She's an absurd technician.
Oh yeah, she's like a powerhouse. It's weird. Like I feel like some of this, the aura around like women, and it's an all-women group. It has to be, at least in the States, like residue from previous generations. Because
that's all it is. Yeah.
Yeah, like I have never once felt like the fact that I'm a girl, people look at me differently. I get pissed off when like some older guy talks to me in a way that is just disrespectful, but I think he probably talks to all young people like that, and not just because I'm a girl, but it's very interesting to me that it ends up a thing. Like at PASIC this year, there was a meeting or a gathering that was like opportunities for women in PAS, and I didn't go, and I don't want to dog it because it's PASIC, but it was just kind of like, what are you talking about? Like, aren't the opportunities the same? Why do there have to be special ones for women? So I don't know if anybody else saw that at PASIC.
Yeah, I actually went to a portion of it, and I think I know that one of the reasons why that started was because there was a Facebook group that was like for all female percussionists, and there was like some anger, I guess, or something going on, and so Julie Hill got on, and it was somebody saying that there's a lack of women presenting at PASIC, and Julie Hill, who we'll be speaking to next week, got on and was like, you should make a panel let's then do something about it,
Mm-hmm.
And I love Julie in that way, that she's just so, well, do something about it, go get it, and so Julie was at the meeting, and she led the meeting, and there were a ton of people there, and you're right, there was nothing different that was discussed, but it was basically like, okay, if there are less women represented at PASIC, then we need to apply. We're the ones that need to apply. So here's how to do it,
Yeah,
and it was cool. So it wasn't like people talking about how they feel underprivileged or something. It was like,
okay,
here are the facts. Here, we in the room, if we care about those facts because we're here, we need to apply. And so, and actually, it was ironic, Laurel, because I think it was during your clinic. I was kind of bummed about that. I was like, we should all be at Laurel's clinic right now.
You know, I hear it on there's a science podcast I really like called Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. One of my favorite things to listen to, and they always try to feature or do a little news segment on a female scientist. And I was going to say, I think percussionists are way ahead of a lot of the other fields as far as sexism, and even other instruments. Like, I feel like we're miles ahead of conductors, and we're miles ahead of a lot of others. But yeah, so they do their little segment on a female scientist, and I always wonder if the female listening might wonder, like, wait, am I just getting this attention because I'm a female? I want to get this attention because I'm a good scientist. So does it diminish the good work they've done because they're featuring them in a way that is like, hey, look, you're a woman, way to go. And I wonder that sometimes. So it's like, yeah, they need to be talked about, but I don't know. I don't know exactly how to put it, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think we heard those kind of comments sometimes, or I kind of think about that because of the ensemble. And I don't know, it's like, the more I think about it, is the more I agree with what you said, Casey. Like, it's not matter of like being girl or boy. It's like we are trying to make something good music-wise. So,
Yeah.
and I'm sure we're not the only ones thinking that. Like, we're not the only girls thinking that.
You know, and I guess an analogy, and excuse the coincidence that that Evelyn's a woman, but Evelyn Glennie, I think it was her 60 Minutes interview. The interviewer does the thing that they all do, which is like, and you're a percussionist, but you're also deaf. That's amazing. And she says, well, okay, look, I'm not just deaf. I'm also just a good player. Like, I hope you guys know me because I'm a good player, not because I have this, you know, this missing sense. So you can see some frustration sometimes with that, and I wonder if that's another way to put it.
Mm-hmm. Should we take another question from Facebook?
Okay.
Yeah, if you got one, that'd be great.
I have one from my mom.
Excellent.
Carol Arns wants to know, what inspired you to play percussion?
Awesome.
Megan Arns, that's the answer.
Right.
I mean, so I was originally very interested in percussion just way back when I was a little girl in Poland. My mom was a classically trained pianist in Białystok, where I'm from, and she played in the Philharmonic, my hometown Philharmonic, and she would teach piano there, and she's like very active. And I remember distinctly, this is one memory I have when I don't know, I must have been like 4 or something, and I saw what I then learned, that were percussionists that were wheeling mallet instruments in the hallway. And for some reason, the aspect of moving things everywhere for the rest of your life was really fun to me. I was like, what are those guys doing? And I was like, oh, those are the drummers. And I was like, I want to do that. And she's like,
what?
Not. And I just saw the instruments. They looked so grandiose. I was like, oh my God, it looks like an organ or something. And she's like, no, this is percussion. Don't look over there. And so she basically tried from then on. She knew that was like instilled in my head. So I really wanted to do drums. And she's like, okay, we have to find her something else quickly before she turns into a drummer. And but actually in my hometown orchestra, there was 2 percussionists, a principal percussionist and like the timpanist were both women. And her colleagues, I guess she just like still didn't want me to do that. And so so I remember she set me up with a lesson to do cello. And so she set me up with the best cello teacher. And he brought all of the students because he was teaching pedagogy. So it was like they just combined the 2. And so I came in for the lesson. They brought me this special little cello. And as soon as I walked into there, I had just this big attitude. I was just like, what am I doing here? Cello. I looked at the teacher and he said, okay, Marcelina, you know what, let's start the cello lesson. Aren't you excited? And I'm like, I don't want to play this stupid instrument. I want to play the drums. And I threw down the cello and I left the room.
Nice.
Oh my God.
I was just like, thug life. I'm out of here. And ever since then, they just couldn't stop me.
Wow.
For me, I mean, no one in my family is musician. Actually, my parents are psychologists, and like, oh, anyone in my family is musician. But they love music. So since I was young, we used to go to many concerts, philharmonic orchestras, many different concerts from many different kind of music styles, rock, popular. I mean, in Mexico, there's a big music tradition. Like, music is part of our parties, our dinners, our everything. Like, it's very easy to find live music everywhere. Not necessarily playing, but at least listening and like living it. I just decided by myself. I went to a concert and I was shocked, like impressed by the percussionists, and I'm like, I want to do that for the rest of my life. And then it took me a while to study because no one in my family is musician. I had to figure out everything by myself, like where to study, who to study with. In Mexico, there's just two major schools, the Conservatory and the National School, to really study music, and it takes 10 years to like do the undergraduate, and it's like exams and exams and exams. Like, it's not that easy. Like, if you really want to make music for a living in a serious way in Mexico, you have to really, really want it, because it's a lot. Like, it's not that easy. It's like there's just two schools. They just accept very few students, and if you don't get there next year, like, you have to wait a long. But anyway, it worked out. It worked out so far.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's crazy. So was it hard to find? It was hard to find training too before like university level. I mean, is there music in schools at all, or, I mean,
you can find a music teacher really easy because there's a lot of music, but that doesn't mean that it's gonna be necessarily for like a classical direction or like more rounded direction. So
yeah.
I mean, you have to be in the field or know someone to like figure out who to study with, and that's how I had to do. I remember I was like 12 years old and like taking my parents to every concert and like trying to talk with like the musicians and like, I want to study, but I don't know who, like I don't know with who and all that stuff, and figuring it all out. But it was fun. I met a lot of people. And yeah, so yeah, it's not that easy to like, oh yeah, Casey, can I have a lesson or something like that? Like, someone easy to leave us.
This reminds me of one time when I was a kid. I went to a symphony concert with my mom, and I remember afterward when we were leaving the concert, we saw, I think, two of the musicians from the orchestra. I think it was like a bassist and a clarinetist or something. And I ran up to them and I got their autograph on the program.
Just some bassists and clarinetists. You know who they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
You still have the autograph?
Honestly, I probably do in a drawer somewhere.
Then why don't you ask them about rep?
Yeah, so I was looking at your website, and you guys have a recording of Threads on there, and Threads is like, I mean, it's one of the, I think, the greatest works ever written for percussion, and it's one of my favorite works I've ever played. So I was wondering if you could tell us about your experience with Threads and performing that, and which part you had, and the challenges, or whatever.
I had actually played the piece prior to us playing it. I had experience with it before, and, you know, I mean, but I had played it when I was like in high school, so approaching it in this age was a little different. That I've had, you know, like theory training and stuff like that. And so I think the piece itself like really grew on us because, you know, just the different movements, completely different sounds, voices, and, you know, and I think in order to really have executed that piece, we really needed to analyze how each movement was different and what it meant, and like a lot of it, honestly, if you just like play the rhythm on non-pitched instruments, it's just it's not that hard. So you have to really step beyond that and, you know, like elevate it and play phrases that are like 16 bars long that really communicate, because it's so easy to just play like bump, bump, a little louder, and, you know, that's not what the piece is about. Also, I think it really helped us, like, just with our ensemble playing, because, you know, if you play the piece, it's not, there's nothing there you have to like shed for a couple hours. And so a lot of it's like really understanding each other's body language, because in a percussion ensemble, sometimes, most of the times, actually have a conductor, and a lot of the time somebody just goes like this, and you play your instrument. So there's not a lot of like actual like, chamber music playing to this, in the sense that like string players, like they know each other's breaths, and like I'm sure they know what their like blinks mean and stuff like that. They've played with each other so long, or they have to learn how to make that kind of thing happen. So percussion ensembles do that, it's like that's not what's innately taught, at least, especially in schools. Like in high school percussion ensemble, you have a conductor, and you have to play with the conductor. You don't really play per se with each other. And so that's like one thing that's kind of like missing, is this sense of like, okay, maybe we should practice without a conductor, and like let's look at each other, and it might take a long time at first, and then you finally get it. It's like, oh wow, for them to be able to do this, it's like people, play percussion. We have completely different training. We play percussion completely differently, even within one group, within living in the same city. And so for us to play one note together, it takes time, and that's like having a percussion group. You really have to learn what it takes to like truly play together, not like with a metronome or with a conductor. It's totally different.
I love taking in a percussion methods class with non-percussionists and trying to explain how hard it is to play something that speaks instantly like a percussion instrument. How hard it is to play that together versus a string instrument or a woodwind instrument, where you can kind of be doing something before your sound comes out. So we just go like, okay guys, give me a downbeat on beat 1. Everybody play on 1 together, and clunk bing bong. Okay, let's try that again. Get up, and they go like, holy crap, yeah, it is so hard to. So anyway, hey, Carlos Johnson has just a few more questions there on Facebook, and I guess it kind of speaks to your all's future plans, which I would love to tell everyone. Is there an expected CD, and is there going to be another competition call for scores?
Yes, we're planning to make a call for scores. Probably we'll release that in the spring, at the end of the spring, through Bakovich too. We're still figuring out details. We will keep you posted, but that's the idea. And also, the next concert will be Marcelina's recital on next week, on the 13th. And
what are you playing on that?
And after that, we also are planning to record a video. We've been working a lot on Bjork's cover. Like Clara made an arrangement of 2 songs from Bjork, and she, with the idea of making the electronic sounds with acoustic instruments and a singer. Yeah. So we're planning to record that video in January and release it probably by the end of spring too. And after that,
we were actually graciously invited to play at this brand new music festival called Tippet Rise, and it sounds like amazing. And we're still in the works, so can't say too much about it yet. But that will be next summer, and it seems like the new exciting kind of music festival, and it combines different art forms. So you can look it up. It's Tippet Rise.
Where is that?
Montana.
Oh, cool.
You guys said you were playing on Mariana's recital next week?
Mine.
What are you playing on that?
So it's my senior recital. It's required for my graduation, and so it's next week, and I'm playing. Why am I spacing right now? Okay, so I'm playing.
You know what you're playing on your recital. This is something you should know.
I'm playing She Who Sleeps with a Small Blanket, by Valance. I'm playing Figment 5 by Elliot Carter. No Giant 4 Marimba piece for me. Bye. And then I'm playing a short story by Martin Matalon on vibraphone. It's a brand new not brand new, but it's a pretty new vibraphone piece. I think it's underplayed. I mean, it's you always hear like Omar, and you always hear loops, and I swear to God, if I hear it one more time. So I really want to do something different. I really want to do a vibraphone solo, but I just didn't want to do the same thing everybody plays. And then I'm playing kind of the New York City premiere of a work by Andrew Stanland. It's his Orient Constellation Theory for a snare drum, and I'm playing the version with electronics. So I'll be premiering that for New York City, I believe. And then we're finishing up with Rounders, so I'll be playing the marimba part, and then Mariana, Aya, and Clara, Excelsis, they're going to be playing the trio.
Gotcha.
Cool.
Yeah, great. How does it feel seeing other percussion quartets that are doing it full time right now, like So or Third Coast? Does it is y'all's plan for the near future to be doing it full time? Or are you just going to kind of see what happens, or what should we be looking forward to?
I think the quartet is still developing, and we're still looking like. I mean, it's developing, but some of us would like to do it full time. But of course, also each of us has their own plans.
Yeah.
So I guess the question will be, what's full time? And that's why will I ask So Percussion, like, because I know that they also do other things, like they teach, they perform with other in other places. They have the quartet too. So the question will be, what's full time? And as far as I know, my idea will be to each of us has their own goals, their own life, and all that, and keep going with that. And the quartet feels on that too. Like, I guess it's just a matter of organization.
Yeah.
We're also planning to like make a tour, like in different countries, in our countries. So that will be a good challenge to figure out how to like set that up. Make that work with all of our lives and like performances and professional commitments.
And I feel like unfortunately the group had like a lot to adapt because of me. I'm still a student, and I'm gonna be auditioning for grad school programs, and so I feel like a lot of it just rests on me, and I feel like really bad for that because I'm going to classes all the time, like. I have rehearsals, and I have all this like school obligations and stuff like that. So unfortunately, a lot of it kind of depends on me. But I do totally see the group continuing, to develop. And like we said, we would really love to visit our respective countries and play there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have a couple plans online, and yeah, we're working on that.
Cool. Well, congratulations on all the good work you've done already. It's a great website. There's a lot of sources. It looks like you guys have done a lot of cool things. And to all our listeners, you can check out at excelsispercussion.com to see more of what you all have been doing. And very cool. I also saw you played at the Zeltzman Marimba Festival at Rutgers this last year, right?
Yeah, we do see that in July. We performed Hyper Ballad from New York and couple other pieces that we got from the Call for Scores, the first one. And yeah, it was
there.
Sorry?
Paul was there.
Paul was there. Paul Lansky was there. We also played Threads. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, very cool. When you do that Call for Scores, man, I hope you guys make a lot of Facebook noise, because I was sitting in the JMU comp seminar just last Friday. And man, composers are super hungry to find these things, and I think they want them so bad they just often miss them. They often just don't see them.
Definitely, we will share that on Facebook and everywhere we can. We'll paste signs all around MSM, and like we will share that everywhere. Yeah.
Cool, wonderful. Well, Marcelina, Mariana, thanks so much for joining us. You guys are fantastic to talk to. And Megan and Ben, thanks for your excellent segments. And Laurel, I'll see you soon. And okay, thanks everybody. We'll catch you next time. And I guess it's happy holidays. So yeah, bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
Not necessarily just for women, just for musicians. It's like for anyone who's looking for a dream or a goal, just go for it.
Like, I don't even think about the fact that I'm a woman playing percussion. I'm just a percussionist that happens to be a woman.